Hey folks, before we dive in, just a quick reminder to follow Sky Alert USA if you want to stay ahead of the weather and catch all our latest updates. It really helps us out if you subscribe, like, and drop a comment below. Thanks for supporting us. All right, guys, I'm not gonna sugarcoat this. The next 10 days are about to be absolutely wild. And I mean that in the most literal sense possible. We're not talking about one storm. We're not talking about a simple snowstorm. We're talking about two completely different winter weather systems colliding with an Arctic air mass, a dangerous ice threat that most people are completely underestimating, and the beginning of what could be one of the most active, severe weather seasons we've seen in years. If you live anywhere from the Central Plains to the Northeast, you need to be paying close attention right now. So let's break this down, because there is genuinely a lot happening, and I want to make sure you understand exactly what's coming and why this particular setup is so much more dangerous than what we've been dealing with all of February. The first thing you need to understand is that this weekend's setup is nothing like the storms we've seen this winter. When most people think snowstorm, they think a classic low-pressure system rolling over the Rockies, pulling Gulf moisture northward, dropping several inches of clean snow. That's not what we're dealing with here. What's actually happening is a band of moisture pushing over the Rockies and running directly underneath a powerful Arctic high-pressure system that's building out of Saskatchewan and Alberta in Canada. And that specific combination, moisture trapped underneath the dome of Arctic air, creates a really unusual and frankly unpredictable forecasting scenario. The lift, or what meteorologists call ascent, is going to be much weaker than a typical storm system. So instead of getting a clean, widespread snowstorm, we're going to get a much more disorganized pattern with isolated heavy bands, a really tricky ice line, and a lot of variation in what different communities actually see on the ground. Round 1 kicks off late Saturday into early Sunday. The Northern Plains, the Midwest, the Great Lakes, you're looking at a coating to maybe a couple inches of snow, depending on where those heavier bands set up. This then pushes into the Northeast by early Sunday morning. Nothing catastrophic for round 1. But here's where things get more serious. Sunday into Monday is where I'm genuinely concerned. A second, stronger surge of Pacific moisture is going to push over the Rockies and interact with what's left of that Arctic high. And this second round is going to affect the Central Plains, the Midwest, and the Ohio Valley in a more significant way. We're watching Kansas City area as a potential starting point for accumulating snow, and this is the part you really need to hear, a corridor of sleet and freezing rain developing right along that freezing line. Now, are we talking full-on ice storm criteria? Right now, probably not. But even a quarter inch of freezing rain on untreated roads at 6 a.m. on a Monday morning is genuinely dangerous. Don't underestimate this just because the headline number sounds small. Then, Monday afternoon into Tuesday is where the forecast gets the most uncertain and honestly the most concerning for people along the East Coast and into the Northeast. The Arctic high weakens significantly by this point, and both major models, the European and the GFS, are trending toward an ice threat across the mid-Atlantic and parts of the Northeast on Tuesday, with a more classic snow setup across New England. The European model has been particularly aggressive with the ice signal across the mid-Atlantic. And while I want to be honest with you that confidence is still relatively low on the exact positioning, The trend in the models has been consistent enough that this is something we absolutely cannot ignore. Anywhere from the Carolinas northward through Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey and into southern New England needs to be watching this Tuesday setup very carefully. And no, this is not going to be a repeat of the massive nor'easter we just had. The intensity doesn't compare. But a more subtle ice event in some ways is more dangerous because people aren't prepared for it the same way. Snowfall totals between now and Wednesday. The models are all over the place, and I'm going to be straight with you about that. The European model is showing some spots in Wisconsin, Minnesota, central Illinois, Indiana, around Indianapolis and near Columbus, Ohio, picking up 1 to 3 inches from the first round. It also hints at a more significant snow event in the northeast by next weekend, but trying to forecast specific accumulations that far out at this point is more noise than signal. The GFS model positions the main storm track further south and shows a more intense ice threat in the mid-Atlantic, while being less bullish on snow totals further inland. The spread between these models tells you everything you need to know about how genuinely uncertain this forecast is. If you're shaded in any kind of grey, blue or purple on accumulation maps right now, plan for the possibility of both snow and ice over the next 7 to 10 days. Now, here's the thing that makes this weather story so much bigger than just a couple of winter storms. By Tuesday into Wednesday of next week, this entire pattern flips. And I mean completely flips. That jet stream that's been dipping southward and fueling these winter systems is going to lift dramatically toward the north. A big ridge is going to try to build along the east coast, while a deep trough sets up along the west coast. And what that does is it creates a conveyor belt for storm systems to roll over the Rockies one after another and tap into Gulf moisture as temperatures surge. We're talking 50s and 60s near Chicago by the end of next week. Potentially 60s and 70s reaching as far north as Minnesota, Wisconsin and Michigan. Record-breaking warmth along parts of the East Coast by the tail end of next week. And that dramatic contrast between the remaining cold air trying to hold on and this surge of warmth pushing northward. That's the fuel for severe weather. I'm not going to oversell the first few days of March. There might be one event, maybe not even that. But after March 5th or 6th, the setup starts to look really significant. The supercell composite parameter maps for March 5th through the 11th are already starting to highlight areas across the Southern Plains, Mississippi Valley, and potentially back into the Ohio Valley. The time frame I'm watching most closely right now is March 7th, 8th and 9th. That's when I think we have the best chance of seeing organized, potentially significant severe weather. Tornadoes, large hail, damaging winds, all of it becomes very much on the table as we head deeper into early spring. And if what the pattern is suggesting pans out, this could be the opening act of what shapes up to be a very active severe weather season across the United States. Sunday is going to be one of the strangest weather days you'll see this year from a contrast perspective. Kansas is going to struggle to reach the 30s and 40s for daytime highs. Meanwhile, Wichita Falls, Texas is going to be pushing toward 90 degrees. Same country, same day. That's how sharp this temperature boundary is going to be. That boundary, that collision zone, that's what's driving everything we've been talking about today. Bottom line, if you're in the Midwest, Central Plains, Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic or Northeast, you need to stay dialed in over the next several days. The snow threat is real. The ice threat, especially Tuesday across the mid-Atlantic and southern New England, may actually be the more dangerous story. And then, once we clear all of this out by the middle of next week, get ready for temperatures to surge and severe weather season to come roaring back. Stay with us. This forecast is going to continue evolving quickly, and we'll have updates as the models come into better agreement on where exactly that ice and snow line sets up for early next week.